Well, hello, and welcome to Jazz Club. As Bosat says, that was Miles Davis there with Toto on Don't Stop Me Now. Nice. Uh, yeah, apologies to anyone who doesn't know the Fast Show. Um, I'm not going to speak like Whispering Bob all night long, but I am going to play an awful lot of Toto because there's an awful lot to play. So welcome, one and all, to Toto livestream night. It's just gone 9 o'clock in the UK, which means somewhere in Glasgow, they're probably on stage right now playing the new set list. No spoilers, please. If you find out what it is, I don't want to know because I am going to be hearing it and seeing it Wednesday night in Wembley and London. So, hurrah, will be my umpteenth time seeing them. Um, Such as they are these days, it's not really Toto. It's the Steve Lukather and Joseph Williams band, but you sell an awful lot more tickets if you call yourselves Toto. Um, and these chaps surround themselves with some damn fine musicians and play some damn fine songs. So it's still going to be great, even if it's not peak Toto. You take what you can get at this day and age. So, for those in who don't know me, I'm Joe slash JSP slash Joseph, and this is Acting as Reacting, where music is played and we have great times. So tonight I have got a set list, so to speak, or a short list, which is very long, of 70. Yes, you heard me right, 70 Toto songs. And no, we're not going to play all of them. People who've been in before will know that I kind of have a playlist for whatever thing we're doing and chuck that on shuffle and kind of go with a best of three style. So we get three options, we'll pick one of them and listen to it. And this list is, well, it covers the full 40 years of the Toto recording career. Every album, it's got the three big hits that they still have to play at every gig, and a few minor hits, but mostly we're going to focus on some deep cuts, I would expect, and more on the rocking side of the deep cuts, because, yeah, I think it's great that they've kind of got this new young audience, and that's largely because of Africa and also because of that horrible term, yacht rock. But yacht rock is a thing, but it's also only a tiny portion of what they do. And I don't tend to get too upset, but the perception around those who don't know this band, and there's a lot of misconceptions about this band, they're probably one of the most misunderstood bands in history, I would say, is that they are soft rock. Sometimes they are, but as we shall discover, sometimes they're not. So, and talking for me, not that I'm actually going to ever stop, but let's hit that playlist and start hearing Toto. So, as I say, it's usually a best of three, but we like to go crazy on the first one and just let the randomness god select how we start. And there's some wild cards in here, including a few of their worst songs, just to mix things completely up. So here we go. Track number one. Oh. We are starting pretty soft. This is from the same album that we just heard Miles blowing over. Album number 6 from 1986. And was the first with the aforementioned Joseph Williams in the lead vocal spot. No such thing. We used to say,
when you need a special person,
that about the Bee Gees, that what they were the most misunderstood bands. Yeah, I can see how you'd feel about that. FN Mando, great name. I don't know what it means, but welcome. So, I start mentioning funky bass from Mike Porcaro on this track. This is, of course, one of only 2 albums where we had the full 3-brother lineup with Jeff Porcaro on drums, Mike on bass, and Steve on keyboards. Steve would leave in '87, but still play on most of the albums in some capacity over the years, and of course he returned to the band full-time for most of the 2010s. Bo start kindly just reiterating exactly what I was saying in the comments. Thank you. I don't know if you've heard or seen anything of Tracy this week. As far as I've seen, she hasn't been in any of the streams, and I hope she is doing splendidly. But I'm sort of not expecting to see her in tonight. Oh, I hope to be wrong, of course. Saying it reminds him a bit of ABBA's Name of the Game. I can't say that it does for me, but then my ABBA listening has been very light over the years. Oh, well, she wasn't well. I mean, she had a birthday recently, so hopefully she just had an amazing birthday last week and is still recovering from that. But I don't know. Alrighty, so that's our first track of the night, and from here on in, there's choices to be made, starting with Only the Children from the following album, the 7th one, literally. I'll Supply the Love from the debut, second single from the band, or Mashanga from the 7th one. Well, we're playing lead singer bingo tonight, so we'll try and get across as many different lead singers as we can. That's one of the problems Toto have faced, is people don't know who Toto is because they sound different on almost every track. Partly because they couldn't keep a singer for more than 3 minutes. But let's hear the first vocal track they ever released, with Bobby Kimball up front. I'm going to start. Let me know if you want to do a selection or if you just want to throw a general feel my way as to what would float your boat if it should happen to come up. So for those who don't know, this was their, as I say, second single. After Hold the Line hit number 5, this only made it to number 45 by comparison. It did make top 30 in New Zealand because we embraced Toto quite briefly, but we got into them quite early on, and then after Africa abandoned them pretty much. Okay, great. I will have a peek and tell you that the next 3 from which you can choose are Minefields from Minefields, Child's Anthem from the debut, or Burn from Toto 14. If you need any information on those, Minefields is more of a experimental, slightly proggy-ish track, if you don't know it, and Child's Anthem is an instrumental, and Burn is a song. Well described there. Hey Nicole, good to see you in here for your the furthering Toto education of Nicole Hills. Happy Sunday morning to you. Well, we shall do a double from the debut. Well, some nice alliteration there. And, that coda right there is one of several Toto songs to my mind where the last minute takes an already good song and just boosts it to another level. Rosanna's another one, a really obvious one. Dying on My Feet from Falling in Between is one that may or may not come up, that has just a fantastic final minute. And yeah, now we are one track earlier with the opening track from the debut. Child's Anthem, because 1978 was the year of the child. Whatever that means, I'm still not entirely sure, to be honest. Well, both like that is the thing, is making these choices is hard. I've already had to make some tough choices on the original culling, whilst, as I say, still leaving the odd rubbish track in there just for sake of balance. Oh, it was 79, so they were ahead of their time, literally. Not for the first or the last time. So, Bosta and Nicole, and anyone else out there, because I see you, who's able to jump in the chat, if you have any questions, queries, general things about the band that you'd like me to speak on or about, let me know. I am open to all discussions of all things Toto. Nicole coming in hard with the what is my favourite Toto album. Most days, Nicole, it is Isolation from 1984. The only album with Fergie Frederiksen on vocals, and I think that's what makes the difference for me, because I love all of the singers apart from one, who nobody likes, and only did 4 songs with them, so it's okay. So yeah, Isolation, but with this debut, Hydra, Kingdom of Desire, Falling in Between, Toto 14, all not very far behind. Essentially, the more rocking a Toto album, the more I like it. I'll get to your question in a second, Poster. But before that, I'm going to jump in and pick the next track out of these three. Chinatown from Toto 14, Pamela from the 7th one, or English Eyes from Turn Back. Ooh, this is between two for me, really. Actually, it was between all three. Let's, because I said I wanted to do Rocking Toto, let's keep the rock going with the track from their third album, which is kind of their Queenish album. They wanted to make a big, heavy arena rock thing, and then got scared by the initial poor sales and didn't even tour behind it. But this one has come out into set lists over the years at times, and is a worthy one. English Eyes. So Poster asks, why did they bring Robbie Kimball back in 1999? Did they need the money? No, it was more a natural kind of thing. They did a very small tour in 1998 for their 20th anniversary and brought both Bobby and Joseph back at that point. And Joseph wasn't really at that point in time in the mindset to be a touring frontman again. But Bobby was, and they were getting on well, and his voice was good. Didn't last, but it was good at that point. And they thought, why not? But yeah, they didn't really need anything. They, by that point, were doing no business in the States at all. But Europe and Asia, especially Japan, they were still selling arenas out, even in the 90s. And they were still on a deal as a result of the success of Toto 4 way back in the 80s, that they just had to deliver an album to Sony and they'd get $1 million, even if they then did no promotion for it. I mean, they tried to get out of that deal, but who was it at Sony? Tommy, Mariah Carey's husband wouldn't let them out of the contract. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. Yeah, Nicole, I know you've listened to Fahrenheit, and I believe you listened to Toto 4 at some point along the way. Isolation is very different from those, and it's right in between them. But I did do a random foreplay of it, so that's up on the channel, which might be a good way to ease your way into it. And then Sean did a song battle for me of two songs that didn't make it into my episode. So, I mean, or you could just listen to the damn album if you prefer. That's a way of listening to music, isn't it? You don't have to watch it on YouTube with some bloke talking over it. Oh well, George Michael had the same trouble with Sony. Blimey. Was that just in one territory, or more generally, Boston? And Nicole, I'll give you the same options that I did for Bow Start, where if you want to pick a 1 and 3 at any point along the way, then you're welcome to do so. Or if you want to just throw out into the ether the sort of thing you might be in the mood for, we'll see what comes up that might suit that, and I'll choose accordingly on your behalf, as long as I approve, obviously. Wow. So 6 years between Listen Without Prejudice and older. Fought with the courts of loss in Richard Butts, Water Mountain, Winter Virgin. Right. I had no idea that he had gone through that. I thought his career had gone a lot more smoothly. Well, Nicole, you let me know how we go as we go along. How are you feeling about what we're hearing, and if you want more of that, less of that, something completely different, that's probably all up for grabs within the confines of the self-imposed format, of course. Bow start. See, I really don't like the line about the bishop and the king, because you took the bishop and the king was standing right in front of you. Well, you can't take the king. So, yeah. I think it's a poor chess metaphor, personally. But their lyrics improved over time, I think. Especially from around the 7th one on, they started to pay more attention to the lyrical side of things. Not that the lyrics before that were bad, especially in the genre they were mostly working in. But you're defending my least favourite line of a Toto song. I love it. Keep going. Alrighty. That is, I would say, easily my favourite track from that album. And now we're moving on to Endless from Isolation, Rosanna, or Great Expectations. And again, these are all magnificently brilliant choices, but because I just told Nicole that Isolation's my favourite album, let's hear the song that I still to this day believe they should have released as the first single from it. It's not my favourite from the album, but in terms of something that could have, if not ripped up the charts like Rosanna in Africa did, I think this stood the best chance of keeping the momentum, and that chance was squandered. But the song lives on, so here we go. This is with my favourite Toto vocalist, Fergie Frederiksen. Rest in peace. So Nicole's asking, do they just get branded as yacht rock because of Toto 4? Pretty much, Nicole, but they had a problem from the second album on, really, where what they wanted as singles and what the record company wanted as singles were often very different, and the singles pushed by CBS, as it was at the time, tended towards the ballads. Yeah, in the 80s they were kind of lumped in with the other ballad bands of the era, the likes of what Chicago and REO Speedwagon were doing in the 80s. And that perception has stuck with them regardless of all the many things that they've done over the time. Mozart says, with words and music by Pates, you can't go far wrong. I agree. H is the king of the Toto writers for me. Although, I did see an interview with Fergie where he claimed that he actually co-wrote this one as well as the tracks he was credited for writing. There's at least one song where he's not credited on an album, but he is credited for publishing purposes. So it's entirely possible that that is a true fact. Okay, so I start saying that he thinks the first album was the best because it's, of course, 80% David Pates written. It's a contender for me. I do like Bobby Kimball, but if it was a different vocalist on the album, then that would probably make it my favourite. It's that close, really. So, Bostart, the next three I'm going to throw to you. We've got Carmen from the same album, Orphan from Toto 14, or Gift of Faith, which is the rocking opener of Tamboo from 1995. If you want to select one of them for us, we shall play it very shortly. We'll start plumbing for the Tamboo track for our next offering, which is great because it means we are jumping around the eras, which is kind of what I planned and hoped to do. So this is a big 7+ minute opening track from their 1995 album. This is the first, of course, after Jeff Porcaro, the drummer, had passed away. So we've got Simon Phillips on the drums for the first time, and what have I got here? Ooh, I've got a pair of Simon Phillips drumsticks from the first show Toto ever played in Auckland, or indeed in New Zealand in total. Nicole, I have only just noticed that after playing here this week, you probably missed it, but I'm seeing them on Wednesday, they're in Australia and New Zealand in April, playing arenas. What the hell? These came from a gig at the Civic Theatre, but they're playing the Spark Arena in Auckland. They're playing Wellington and Christchurch as well. Don't miss it, would be my advice. And I would have to think, Nicole, that it will be the last time they get that far. So, yeah. If you're inclined to go, and I strongly suggest it, work it out. Okay, Bostard, I knew you had seen them, but I wasn't sure where, so it was Hammersmith in 2011. So, another room that we were both in together without knowing it. And Mostart pointed out that this one featured writing input from Tom Petty's drummer Stan Lynch, as did a lot on this album. And that's kind of one of the things I'm talking about when I say that they started working on their lyrics more. They drafted in more outside help for them at times. Yeah, Nicole, I don't have a lot of memorabilia, but those were rescued from backstage, I think, by a friend of my mum's who was working security there. I don't know quite how that happened, but there you go. Astonishingly, I've still got them after all these years. What I haven't been able to find is the all-in box set that Sony put out with the first dozen albums. How you can misplace a box set, I do not know, but I've done it. When I start the Doobies in 2010, I did not see, because at that point I was working a shift pattern that was 3 12-hour days on, followed by 3 24-hour days off, and they fell right in the middle of my days on, so that was one that I sadly missed. So the only time I've seen them over here was when they opened for Steely Dan in 20 sometime. I haven't mentioned it, but anyone playing along with lead vocalist Bingo, we've got Steve Lukather on vocals here in the period where he basically took over after they churned through their lead singers for quite a few years, and then eventually decided that enough was enough and he should do it full time. He always sang a song or two along the way, but from previous album Kingdom of Desire in '92, he was it for a short time. So to cover the earlier tracks with the high tenor voices, they brought in some female singers as officially backing singers, but they did sing lead, especially at concert. And you'll hear one of them on this track quite prominently, Jenny Douglas McRae, who also plays the librarian in the video for Africa. So that's slightly weird, but also pretty cool. You would have gone to Steely Dan Winwood in 2017 if things had been different. I did that one as well, so the Doobies must have been a year or two before that, I'm guessing. That was the better lineup, Doobies and Steely rather than Steve Winwood, who I have to say, great voice aside, is pretty damn boring live. This is Jenny coming in on the vocals now. We should play Concert Bingo Boast Art. I think. Well, we definitely know Lightfoot and now Toto, and I'm sure we've been in other similar places together at some point in the past 15 years. But if at some point we actually plan to be at one together, then that would be nice. One thing I will say with regard to the three proper 90s albums is that they are, like most 90s albums, a little bit on the overlong side. Personally, I don't actually mind that for them, but they can be, especially Minefields, can be a lot to sit through for those who are less completely dedicated than me. So we're already at the choice, even after a long song, of our next pick. So we've got a soppy ballad from Steve Lukather from the seventh one, Anna. Another rocking track from Isolation, Mr. Friendly, or White Sister from Hydra. Now, this is the track, White Sister, which I'm about to play, if you hadn't guessed, that I've spent years wasting time trying to get other lesser YouTube reactors to try out and show them a different side of Toto that they would actually dig, but to no avail thus far. That said, I mentioned earlier that the band had certain preferences of songs they wanted as singles. This is one they wanted as a single ahead of 99, which was actually the single from the album. I love the song to death, but can I see it being a hit single in 1979? Not on your Nelly, but let's hear it now. This, for my money, has Steve Lukather's probably best guitar solo, but I'll leave you to work out which one it is because you've got a couple of choices. And this one has been a live staple over the years. Always strikes me as odd with Toto and their set lists that they don't mix things up more from night to night, given that they are ace musicians and can play anything. What they tend to do is get a set list, play it to death for 2 or 3 years, and then throw out all but the 3 songs that they always had to play and do a completely new set list, and then play that to death for 2 or 3 years, and so on. So it does mean what they're playing right now tonight in Glasgow is, I believe, the first night of the new set list. So it'll be interesting to see what it is and how they tweak it, because there's usually a couple of songs early on that get dropped, so I'm hoping to see everything before they get to that phase of it. Yeah, Bostart. A lot of it's tied into the fact that these days everything's programmed along with the lights and visual effects and various other things, so it's harder from a technical point of view with the venues to mix things up so much, but bands do still do it and do it well, so Marillion still do it. Yeah, Bostart is saying that side 2 of this album, Hydra, is side Bobby, is Bobby Kimball sings and co-writes all by one of the 4 songs, including this one. But another way of looking at it is that track 6 of this album, which only has 8 songs, track 6 is only the second Bobby lead vocal on the whole album. Which I don't especially mind, but it's a strange one. I think another Bobby rocker on side 1, and they had one, I don't know how they left it off, Tale of a Man, should have been on there, and Lorraine could have been ditched. Not a bad song, Lorraine, but come on between the two. Nicole, what does your mum like? Will you have to tell her lies and tell her that it's nice soft yacht rock and you'll be able to just chill for a couple of hours, or tell her the truth that they rock hard? That said, they're doing a really overplaying the yacht rock card themselves by going out with Christopher Cross as their support. To be fair, I've never seen Christopher Cross, so that will be interesting. But of course, they played on his albums over the years, but I mean, they played on everybody's albums over the years, so that doesn't necessarily mean much. Yeah, well, Nicole, I went and saw Toto with my mum many times. Um, in fact, after one of the gigs, this was in Melbourne, 2006, May the 19th. The reason I know the date was because it was her birthday, and Luke sang happy birthday for her at the meet and greet afterwards. So, if I didn't already love the band, I would have done from that moment on. Alrighty. Speaking of Mr. Lukather, he's just been blazing some guitar there, and this leads us to our next option. In a Little While from Old Is New, Mad About You from Minefields, or Waiting for Your Love from Toto 4. Well, we've had some good examples of the rocking side of Toto, but they do soft, and sometimes they make some of the most beautiful soft music that exists, and I think this song is a good example of that. Steve Lukather on vocals again, but he didn't actually write this one. This is a rare thing indeed. I believe it's a Steve Porcaro and David Paich co-write. And this is from what looks to be the final Toto album, which is kind of a shame because it's not really a proper album, but yeah. This came out to mark the 40th anniversary as part of that box set that I've lost, and then got a separate release on its own a year or two later. So yeah, this is my contender for the most beautiful Toto song. I hope you talk her into it, Nicole. Neither of you will regret it. Although if you want to wait for me to see them on Wednesday, just in case they're really terrible and I withdraw my recommendation, you can do so. I think that's quite unlikely though.
For a little while, if you hold on and hold out, I will be there to keep you safe from harm.
And yes, that was the solo. I'm just catching up on the track. But of course there were two of them pretty much back to back, so the second one is for me. Peak Lukather. And while I've got you, why don't you pick our next two options are Wings of Time from Kingdom of Desire, Drag 'Em to the Roof from Taboo, or Could This Be Love from Fahrenheit? Won't peek any further than that.
If I hold on and hold out, will you be there in the city where I'm coming home? In a while we can make love forever. In a while till our hearts beat together. Throw away your cares till the full moon is over. Yes, I'll be there in a little
Yes, Burston, I was. They were Wings of Time from Kingdom of Desire, Drag 'Em to the Roof from Taboo, or Could This Be Love from Fahrenheit?
of the room. Couldn't feel the love I'm lost. Knowing fate has dealt me another chance for a love that is not a love that was. So if you see through, you know I need you.
we shall therefore be dragged to the roof after this. Thank you, Post Art. Yeah, I'm not convinced by Old Is New as an album in full, but that is a little beauty. Now we're back to the 90s for Drag 'Em to the Roof, which is, as I recall, O.J. Simpson related, if you can work that out from the lyrics. Let's hear it. So this is a rare track from the era that does have some David Paich on vocals. Mostly Luke as well.
They keep looking through the window. A candle plays across their eyes. Now that I've been betrayed, I must be well behaved. I'll drink corruption with their lies. Why was I hiding?
Oh, Post Art. For those not in the chat, Post Art just said that OJ's website address was the first one he ever memorized. ///escape. Which is in the worst possible taste, and I therefore thoroughly approve of. Also, the guitar riff is pretty catchy on this, and again, Mike Porcaro's bass work, I think, is sublime. Yeah, I had heard that joke before, Post Art, but yeah, I bet there were worse. I was mentioning earlier how the 90s albums are, or could be perceived to be, somewhat on the bloated side. With this particular album, it's pretty easy for me. There's just a few too many ballads on it. Chop any random two of those out. Probably if you belong to me and just can't get to you, because they're pretty generic. The album would be just that stronger overall. But none of those songs are terrible by any means. And this song was actually the encore in that gig where these these sticks were used. So I'll play along. Yeah, I'm not a drummer, can you tell? I could have been, and I think in another lifetime I am. But in another lifetime, I was a piano player who never heard David Paich and therefore never decided that I can never be that good, so I might as well quit. Which is pretty much what happened. stop. That's enough now. Before you came in, Nicole, I was saying that our Aussie cousin Tracy hasn't been seen, as far as I know, in any streams this week, so I didn't think she'd be along tonight, and so it's proven so far. But I hope she is out there and doing well. Tracy, if you are watching this on replay, hello! Catch you next time, hopefully. I'm sure there'll be a new set of terrible jokes unleashed on whatever the next track is. And obviously, both sides of Nicole, you know the deal. If we happen to go down at any point, just because I'm getting the we've detected copyright material in your stream, etc. But for the lurkers out there, if this does go to get taken down, then we'll probably come back with a part 2, which I'll post in the chat, and you'll hopefully be able to find us and carry on. But hopefully we'll survive without needing to do that. Both shots saying a guy called David James is credited with additional lead vocal. Can you enlighten us? Not David James, but John James. And he was another, not female, but another touring vocalist with them in the 90s, who took on some of the lead parts. He sang Bobby's part and Rosanna live, amongst other things. Some good footage of him online. Alrighty, so the next 2 choices will be down to me, and I have no idea what is coming up here. Got No End in Sight from Falling in Between, She Knows the Devil from Kingdom of Desire, or Tale of a Man from Toto 20, but what would have been on Hydra. But because we haven't been to this era so far, let's head to the closing track from 2006. The 2006 album, Falling in Between, which I happen to have with me. This is Steve Lukather and Bobby Kimball sharing vocals. And as you can see, or maybe you can't see, this is the same night I was talking about where Luke saying happy birthday. I got the sign by most of the members of the band. Mike didn't come and join us in the bar, and I had met him before, so now I wonder, that was about a year before he had to quit touring and ahead of his diagnosis of motor neuron disease, or Lou Gehrig's disease, being that he's American. So I wonder if that was already starting to affect him. I don't know, but that was very, very sad indeed what happened there. So Greg Finnegan's is in the band in this era, and he's now returned. So he's back in the trying keyboard role these days. Nicole's asking how I got into Toto. Well, I haven't discussed this yet, Nicole, so thank you for asking. The obvious track to talk about it we've skipped past, because that was Rosanna. So, in the early 90s, I know the ancient days to you, but there was a show on TV2, as it was in those days, called Solid Gold, the Classic Hits, which was basically old music videos. And I tuned in for the very first episode to see the Doobie Brothers, CCR, and some other people and this band came on that I hadn't heard of called Toto, and I thought, well, I have to sit through that to get to the doobies, so I guess that's okay. And it was Rosanna, and I thought, oh. Soon after that, I picked up a copy of Toto 4. I mean, literally picked it up. I didn't buy it. It was a CD. I didn't have a CD player at that point. And I flipped over the back, and it's one of the albums that has photos of the band members and their names. And it just so happened that for a nerdy kid who always read the liner notes of every album we ever listened to, I was seeing a list of all of my favourite musicians that happened to be in this band together. It's like, oh, David, okay, cool. Steve Porcaro, Jeff Porcaro, Steve Lukather, David Page. I was literally, that was in my head at the time, but I did almost collapse at the sheer magnitude of what I realised I had stumbled upon. And they didn't disappoint. And of course, I knew from Boz Skaggs that David Page could write, so I knew they'd have the songs, and so it proved. So that's kind of also my active 90s rebellion, was to not listen to grunge, but to get into really slick, top-notch quality musicianship kind of bands like these guys. My acts of rebellion have always been wildcard options, I guess you could say. I start saying this was Greg Fillingane's only studio album with the band, true. Basically, the Steve Porcaro role is probably best known for his work with Eric Clapton, and like the rest of them, is on many sessions, and indeed played with them on a lot of Thriller, and Donald Fagen's solo album, Nightfly, amongst many other things. So he's one of the family, really. And, I have to say, a bloody nice guy as well. Don't you worry, Brostar. I can see that there have been people joining, whether it's me, you, or the band of choice. You often get a lot more people watching than you ever get in the chat, and I'm sure Sean sees the same. But obviously we're missing a few regulars. We know Tracy's not in. I didn't promise Evan David that I'd play Weezer's version of Africa, so he stayed away. I threatened Sean that I might play Toto's version of Africa, so he stayed away. And equally, I posted in a few Facebook groups, only one of which actually approved the message. The others might get approved at a later date, by which time they'll be able to watch the replay, but they won't know that this is actually happening until then. So, but that's alright, because as I found with, particularly with the soul artist streams, these do really well on catch up. So we can have a party with just the three of us chatting, and others will come and hear the great music that we've been listening to along the way. Alrighty. So, I didn't have the foresight to give anybody else a choice at this point. So, the next three are Could You Be Loved? Yes, a Bob Marley cover. Alone from Old Is New. Or Gypsy Train from Kingdom of Desire. For something completely different, let's go to the opening track of what I consider the only dud in the Toto catalogue, which is Through the Looking Glass from 2002, an all-covers album which is mostly uninspired, in terms of both track selection and renditions. But I kind of like this one. It's a little bit. I mean, some people really, really hate this version as well, but which I can understand. But hey, I think it sounds good, and it's what I'd hope they'd do for the rest of the album, which is doing something different for them, which wasn't to be. But here we go. This is Toto doing Bob Marley. A bit of whatever this is to start us off. And it's also because, of course, talking about numbers, I couldn't stream last week, and when you're a relatively new streamer, then it can take people a while to follow you around when you miss a week. Now, Start's description beats mine, which is horrible rap intro. The reason they did at least have a reason for doing a crappy covers album is that they wanted to do a tour for their 25th anniversary, and promoters said to them, you need to have an album out to promote to go with it. And it was a pretty tight deadline. They didn't have much time to put anything together, so this is the solution they came up with. It also marked their first album away from Columbia/Sony. They went with CMC, which was a subsidiary of EMI, who signed quite a lot of the old bands in this era and then did double with them. So, yeah. And then Falling in Between, of course, was on Frontiers Records. And I believe is still the biggest selling album that they have ever released. Frontiers, that is, not Toto, obviously. Before I make another terrible choice, maybe I'll give you the one afterwards. Good. I will. And I can give you the options for the one afterwards now. We have got Leah from Fahrenheit, Thought in the Balance from Minefields, or Afraid of Love from Toto 4. So aside from this, the only, and it's on the list here somewhere, whether we get to it, probably not, the only real winner on the covers album for me is Burn Down the Mission, which is brilliant. But as I hinted the other week, there's a bad Beatles cover, there's a bad Dylan cover, there's a boring Steely Dan cover, there's a boring Cream cover. It's just not good. Alrighty, so the next three, this is wildcard territory. Love is a Man's World, which was a one of the demos before they even started as a band proper. Chelsea from Old As New, which is on there because I think it's their worst song ever. So we're not going to play that. All Running Out of Time from Toto 14, which opens what is, well, it's been behind me all night, but for me this is the last proper Toto album. another interesting backstory for it. As I mentioned, this was the biggest selling Frontiers album ever, and in the 2000s the band was touring mostly to support Mike in his medical bills, which were horrendous, and they started to put out live releases from those concerts, and Frontiers stepped in and said, well, actually, if you're going to be releasing new music, you still owe us another album. So basically they sued them, and this was the result. One of the finest albums to ever come out of litigation, as far as I'm concerned. Having been forced to make it, they did their damnedest to make it worthy, and yeah, great job as far as I'm concerned. Leo's next, Thank You Boaster. That's probably the other most beautiful song after In a Little While, what we heard earlier. Both start saying 14 is number 12 in his list, since he doesn't think Toto 20, which is an old Sods album basically, and the covers album deserve the genes of numbers. I kind of agree, and I think the band agree that Toto 20 is not really a proper album, but I don't think they wanted to call it Toto 13 for obvious superstitious reasons. And yeah, covers albums are albums, whether they're good, bad or otherwise. They're always bad. I don't think anyone's ever made a really good covers album, and I tend to avoid them wherever possible. So on this album they had Keith Carlock on the drum stool, and he was actually announced as the new drummer for them, but I think he played about a month's worth of gigs in the end, but he couldn't make it work with the Steely Dan schedule basically. So a chap called Shannon Forrest came on, who had been in a band called Mecca with David Hungate and Fergie Fredrickson. I say a band, they never toured or anything. They again made an album for Frontiers. And David Hungate himself said that Shannon is the closest he's heard to someone playing like Jeff Porcaro since Jeff's passing. And he's back in the band currently as well. So, as they all have been really, it's a very strong lineup that they've got at present. So this is one that Nicole will have heard because it's from the Fahrenheit album. Again, we're going super soft here. Some gorgeous acoustic playing from Luke on this one. This is a Steve Porcaro written tune that's sung by Joseph Williams. A lot of people think it's Steve singing this, but David Sanborn on the saxophone. And later on there's a fabulous vocal section which includes everybody's least favourite eagle, Don Henley, in the mix. He famously wouldn't sing the line about being a concertina, or Leah being his concertina, and I can't really blame him. this is also the only track from the Jeff Porcaro era that has a different drummer on it. Steve Jordan is on drums for this track. Though there is, of course, a loop that Jeff and Danny Castro and others put together. Probably the nicest time that Steve and Jeff had together in Toto, because they had as fractious a sibling relationship as anybody in rock. It's not one that made the headlines often, but people have said you did not want to be in a room with the two of them together when they were going at it. And Mike came in, he was kind of the peacemaker. It must be very hard for Steve, because obviously you love your brother, but they can be difficult. And when everybody venerates someone like they do with Jeff, for the very obvious reasons, but you know the other nasty side of someone, I don't know how I'd take that. But Bo starts asking, is that partly why Steve left? And yes, it is. As we know, the guys are all first-rate musicians and very, very quick, especially Jeff, at getting the take, whereas Steve's synthesizer contributions could be very complicated based on 80s technology and took a lot of time. And that caused a lot of friction, particularly between him and Jeff, but also other members of the band. And eventually he just said, well, if you want me to do it quickly, I'll just treat it like session playing and not put so much effort into it. And they said, yeah, okay, do that then. The way Steve tells it now, he's seen into the future, because he says, oh, you know, grunge was coming in and a band with two keyboardists was just going to be so out of fashion that there was no room for me. But he left in 1987, so keyboards were still king. I think that's a wee bit of revisionism from the band. You get that a bit with Toto. The other fun thing, speaking of Toto stories that don't stack up, is the story that they asked Michael McDonald to be the lead singer, but he only just accepted the job with the Doobie Brothers. All right. For those watching the replay, what's happened is we've gone down on the live stream. So I will be talking to them in the stream